This is the first ever Team Fulinkazan podcast. In this inaugural episode, we talk to Team Fulinkazan founder and head coach Mark Spencer. Mark talks about what's happening at the gym right now and the latest classes in MMA, BJJ and combat submission wrestling. He tells us more about some recent successes in the cage and also looks ahead to some forthcoming fights. But we started by asking Mark to give us a history of the gym and recall some memorable moments in almost 14 years of existence.
So Team Fulinkazan, we're based in Bradford City Centre on Sunbridge Road on the 4th floor. This has kind of been our base for the last 12 years. We're in our close to our 14th year now. We started just before 2004. There was a group of us who would train in Bradford City Centre at a gym called Kickers, which was Martial Arts Academy. Then from there, a bunch of us moved up to Planet Fitness because we wanted to focus mainly on mixed martial arts or cage fighting. And from there, we got a small group working together. A couple of us went over to Japan, and that started really the formation of the team. The team name Fulinkazan. We had an exchange student called Keshi Maeda, who was who organised everything to get us over to Japan, to be honest. And he came up with the name, and yeah, we liked it. We liked the reason behind it. It's an old Japanese wartime proverb, which has the characters make up the four elements: earth, wind, fire, water. And then from there, we've just built.
And really, that is quite clear then to anyone. You've put a massive amount of personal effort in. You've travelled the world. Over 10 years, you're up and running now. It must be satisfying, but I'm sure you've had some challenges along the way.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I think anything worthwhile doesn't come without a challenge. You know, I mean, everything that I look back and I'm proud of. At the time, you wanting to cry, you wanting to kind of run away from it and not deal with it. But if you stick in there, hopefully at the end of it, it's good and it doesn't break you. And as the old saying goes, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. But it's really good. I think for us, we've been a fighting gym for so long. I'd love to hear if there is another gym in Bradford that have the same accomplishments in mixed martial arts as us. I believe we're the only the only gym in the country who have a gold, silver and bronze medal from the Worlds and Europeans through Joe.
That's IMAF, that's the International Mixed Martial Arts Federation.
Yeah, that's pretty much the World Cup of amateur mixed martial arts. That there is no bigger, there's no bigger stage, and the way that some other countries are really getting behind by funding the IMAF competitions. Bahrain are really investing into it through the world. You've got China, who are now they're putting a lot of money into making this a real success. The UFC's been part of IMAF for I think over a year now, hosting IMAF 2 years ago in Vegas for UFC 200. We had one of our fighters out there, Danny Stirk, representing the country and Team Fulinkazan. So we went out there. I coached on the UK squad as well. So it were 4 long days of padding, rolling. The first day was probably the more challenging one. Speaking about challenges, where I think I padded, rolled and warmed up pretty much every member of the squad, bar one, I think.
Sounds harder than fighting.
Oh God, yeah. Yeah, it was quite funny because at the end of the session, there were a few people who kind of stuck around and says, "Oh, we're going to get our own training now." I'm like, "I'm all right, mate. I think I've done my 6 hours for today." But going back to kind of Team Fulinkazan, we've had multiple champions across multiple weight divisions, multiple systems. So Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, no-gi. We've had some kickboxing champions. We've had multiple mixed martial art champions. it's taken a lot to get there. It's taken an awful lot to get there. You know, I think some people, and you see people come in, you know, at one point in Bradford, I think there was 7 gyms within a mile radius of us. That was quite a few years ago. There were a lot of people trying to jump on the bandwagon of mixed martial arts, and I think through our experience and through our pedigree, we've outlasted pretty well all of them. You know, and that's through hard work and dedication. It's good. It is good, but it does come with its sacrifices and its commitment as well.
Now we'll move on to the here and now in a moment. That's a fantastic potted account of the growth of Fulinkazan and how it's contributing and continuing to contribute to the world of MMA. But obviously one key figure I know in the growth of the gym's been your wife Marie. She's been ever present in the gym, and in the last I think 4 or 5 years she's actually been very successful competing and training herself.
Yeah. So, you know, I'm really lucky with Marie. You know, before she started training, she was always really, and she still is. She's very supportive of what we do. You know, if it wasn't for Marie, there wouldn't be a gym. You know, we'd have packed in years ago, because there was no way. You know, because of how we've grown, the amount of students that we've got, the amount of events that we go to, the just keeping the wheels turning on what we've got now. We need that strong character in Marie. She's very quiet, you know, she doesn't really say boo to us, but you know, the work that she puts in behind the scenes, it's you know, it's hard to kind of just break it down in a 30-minute slot of kind of what she does. I think one of the most beautiful things I've seen with regards to kind of Marie's, when she started getting involved. I think when you're on the outside, it's really difficult, and especially as a lady, when you see a room full of guys rolling round, to kind of understand, you know, that there's nothing funny, there's nothing sexual about what we do, you know. And she gets an appreciation. You know, when we started the women's only course, which, you know, we had Joe and Marie both start that course, and you know, you see them kind of go through. Helen Smales as well did a fantastic. You know, and you know, we had Holly as well, who, you know, picked up some British champions before she moved on, championships before she moved on. You know, I think, you know, trying to convince, you know, someone that, you know, what we do is for everyone, when it's just a room full of guys who smell funny and hitting pads and making funny groins and stuff. It's hard, but you know, Marie sort of, you know, stopping one day and kind of, you know, looking at me and going, I get it. You know, I get why it isn't what I thought it was originally, or I get why it's addictive. And at times, you know, she understands why it gets so frustrating, because like Marie, you know, was with me when I was still competing, you know, and the weeks up to a fight, it takes a lot, especially when you're not involved in the sport, to have that patience to deal with someone who's cutting weight, who's hungry, who's achy. You know, she's taken me to hospital God knows how many times. What's fantastic now, the tides have turned a little bit, so I've now taken Marie to hospital more in the last 2 years, and she's taken me. She's doing fantastic. She's doing really good with the Golden team, so she's working with those guys on the boxing. She's getting some extra sessions in with Darren and Helen Curry, and we've seen leaps and bounds all the time. So I'm glad she's getting time to actually enjoy doing mixed martial arts and Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, not just kind of a lot of the rubbish stuff of admin and accountancy and stuff like that.
Well, that's it's fantastic to see, and I'm sure she'll continue to be successful. Here and now, then, we'll talk about the recent happenings and the current happenings at Fulinkazan. We're in the gym, as you can probably gather now. There's a wrestling class underway now. You can hear that in the background, but you've had a few timetable changes in recent weeks. Tell us what's on now at Fulinkazan through the week for people who perhaps want to come down and have a look at some training.
Yeah, we've sort of gone back to how we originally started. So on a Monday and Wednesday, they were primarily our mixed martial art days. We've split the class a little bit back to a kickboxing 6 till 7 and submission grappling 7 till 8, and then we've got a fight team, which is the consistent kind of 8 o'clock onwards. And been doing a lot of kind of research, been speaking to a lot of peers, within the MMA community, guys who are currently producing UFC level fighters, getting to kind of ask them questions.
That's different gyms around the country.
Yeah. So I mean, because I've been doing mixed martial arts for such a long time, it's 18 years.
Wow.
18 years this year. So 18 years in May. Was May the 1st, 2000 was my first ever Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu class. So I'm in my 18th year. Back in the day, it's quite an old man thing to say. Everybody knew everyone. So the likes of kind of Paul McVeigh, James Doolan, who were up in Scotland, we'd pretty much see him on a weekly basis. James Doolan's doing fantastic now. He's got multiple UFC fighters in his gym. I went and trained with a chap who unfortunately is no longer with us, called Robert Follis. Before Robert took his own life, I was in contact with Robert, just asking questions around kind of how he structures his classes. He had at the time he had Kevin Lee, who was doing fantastic. So Robert was kind enough to kind of give up some of his time and answer my questions. And there's lots of patterns to mixed martial arts. There's lots of patterns to people's development, and what we've done is we've kind of taken a bit of a back step and looked at, right, we know we can produce fighters, and we know we can produce fighters at every different level. So the guy who's never done anything, which is pretty much the majority of our team, who've never had any martial art influence from any other club, come into our team and we build them into champions. We're lucky to get some guys coming from different disciplines. So we've got Isaac and we've got Jack Temple, we've got Oscar, we've got Jacob, who are coming in from other clubs and really starting to shine within the team as well, really integrating nicely and developing as well, which is brilliant. So just looking at all that and how we keep the gym functioning and actually developing it's led to us kind of changing the timetable slightly. We're doing extra sessions as well for our fighters, so because we're a couple of weeks out, we're going to start working more specifically with some of our fighters who've got matches, going through more game plan. And one of the other things which has really sort of changed over the last couple of years is our Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu team. We're doing fantastic. I think over the last couple of years, we see our medal count. It's been really impressive for just a small little gym over in Bradford. And we just see them building on this each year. Sometimes people move on and do different things, which is fine and great. People need to kind of find their own feet. But the gym's an open gym, so we have an open door policy for anyone who wants to come train with us. The only caveat that we have is if we've got someone competing from our gym with another person's gym, then through that period we sort of ask that maybe we just put it on hold.
Sounds like common sense to me.
Yeah, and it's really interesting because I'm watching something by Faraz Zahavi the other day, and he has the same principle and same philosophy. And
that's George St Pierre's coach, is that
right?
Yeah.
I mean, he's just got an absolute pool of fighters, and it's quite strange just how close our philosophies are. And this has been our philosophy for years. But I think sometimes things get skewed a little bit through translation and through whispers and stuff. But we have an open door policy. As long as we're not competing against a member of your team. We've had the Predator guys over, so we've had Sam Spencer and I forget his name, Mr. Chop, come over and train with us. Good Craig Skelton from Harrogate's been over. We get people coming through, quite a bit. So if people want to come and train, as long as we're not competing against your gym in mixed martial arts, it's cool. It's really cool.
So you mentioned Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, you mentioned MMA there. On the timetable currently, if anybody has a look at the website, bradfordmma.com, they'll see that, they'll see BJJ, they'll see MMA Fight Team and Combat Submission Wrestling, Eric Paulson's system. You're also heavily involved and affiliated with that. So the timetable's got different things depending on what you fancy.
Yeah, definitely. And I know some people kind of frown upon this thing, but We offer grading in kickboxing, in Eric Paulson's combat submission wrestling system, and you know, I think sometimes with mixed martial arts and Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, people get a little kind of, you know, stuck up around, oh, it has to be Jiu-Jitsu or nothing. But you know, I've been a massive fan of Eric Paulson for years. I mean, he's influenced every part of my game. You know, about 7 years ago, we affiliated with Coach Paulson, and you know, I'm now a level 1 coach under Eric Paulson. You know, working towards my level 2. In kind of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu terms, that's kind of the equivalent of a blue belt, purple belt. In some people's mind, that'd seem like a step down because I've got a black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, but it's just so different. It's so different. I think with Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, people kind of, it's not softer, but the IBJJF rules, people are training for those because they're the most prestigious events that are out there. So the whole kind of, you know, not wrist locking, not foot locking, not doing things like that until you're a certain belt, I think it loses the art a little bit. I mean, obviously we try and train as safe as possible. Accidents do happen, but you know, Jiu-Jitsu, when I started, you did Jiu-Jitsu to work yourself into a mixed martial art fight. So there were wrist locks, there were heel hooks, there were neck cranks, there were just awfulness. And I'm not saying that we go back to those days because it was pretty awful, but there has to be that happy medium where Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu isn't just IBJJF. You know, if you're preparing for that kind of competition, great, you need to focus on that rule set. But you know, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is way more than just a rule set that's dictated by a competition. And you know, so we will teach, you know, reaping the leg. We will teach, you know, sometimes twisting footlocks and wrist locks and things like that. But when our guys roll, if they are interested in competing, we will sort of say you should maybe avoid these positions for now until you're doing the rule set. You know, that's more for our competitors. We do the same with our mixed martial art fighters as well. So you know, we don't. You know, someone who's in day one, we don't sort of get them to start thinking about elbows because through the rule set they won't do that for a good couple of years. So you've got to focus to the game. There's no point giving a football or a rugby ball and then tell them to go play football because it's a different game, it's a different tool, it's a different thing, and that sometimes maybe is a little bit different about how we do our jiu-jitsu, but we do well. You know, we've produced, you know, people who've won medals at IBJJF competitions. You know, we produce, you know, a good team who contribute towards the combat base. You know, trophies that we win at like Empire Grappling and some of the other places as well.
That's BJJ, yeah.
Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, yeah. So and you know, going back to your original question, that's where kind of that influence from Eric Paulson comes in, where you know, catch wrestling is where catch wrestling. And CSW where catch wrestling and jiu-jitsu shake hands. You know, that's what he says famously.
So that's a really interesting snapshot again of what's on at Fulinkazan now, and would encourage people to check out the website bradfordmma.com. You'll find all the information there. You can even sign up now. Very convenient, I noticed. And that's also fascinating insight into how the team's developed and grown since it started. Tell us about what's happening then with some of the elite fighters, some of the elite competitors. I'm thinking specifically Joanne Doyle, who, as you mentioned her already, but she's just been out in Romania at the International Amateur Mixed Martial Arts Federation, or maybe the other way around, IMAF I think it is, the European Championships. She got a bronze medal at that event. She's won previous medals on that stage as well. So Joanne's been in action, and you've got some other guys in domestic mixed martial arts action as well. So give us an overview of those, if you would.
So I think Jo got silver.
Oh, did she? Sorry.
I think so, in that one. Yeah. So she's got gold, bronze, silver now.
Sorry, yeah, she got a bronze previously. Jo, yeah. Please don't hit me.
So yeah, you know, Jo's done really well. She's now become the women's ambassador for UK Mixed Martial Arts Federation, which is fantastic, and I think that really goes to kind of her commitment and what she's done. You know, no one gets funded to go out to all these places, so to go to Europe twice, to go to Bahrain for the Worlds, you know, she's got some sponsors, and we've done some of the fundraising stuff for the earlier events, but you know, there's still a lot of time that you give up through, you know, the work time, your holidays, time for training. You know, there's still spending a lot of money to get out there. You know, Jo's doing fantastic, and like I say, after the last one, she's been named the UK MMAF Women's Ambassador, which is brilliant. You know, that's really good. You know, I think, you know, the support from James Doyle, who's her husband, funnily enough.
Spot the connection.
I know, there's a connection there somewhere. You know, James gets out there to everything. You know, James is really supportive of Jo. You know, the team get behind her as well. I think it's really, really good. But you know, you've got to recognise that she's put that time and energy and effort into it. You know, we've also, you know, recently Jabib Rahman has picked up the Cage Warriors title, the featherweight Cage Warriors title.
That's a British title.
British title, yeah. It's the Cage Warriors amateur one, so for North East, I think it is. And you know, he's 9-0 now, so you know, it's one of those where once you get to 9-0, you've really got to take a step back with what your future looks like, what do you want to do, what is there to get out of the amateur game. So you know, Jab's looking at going pro pretty soon, which for me, for a long time, has been a big milestone. So taking someone who's not really done mixed martial arts or any martial arts at all, and then getting them to that pro level, it's a big milestone for me as a coach. So you know, I'm looking forward to training Jab for that next step into pro. Got Callum Mullen as well, who in his last fight he picked up the lightweight Cage Warriors amateur title. We're now looking to get Callum matched pretty soon for his first pro fight. You know, Callum, you know, has got multiple British championships. He's been, you know, training with us since I think he was 12, so he's now 19, I think, 20 maybe. It makes me feel very old. And then, you know, we've got
I mentioned the other two guys as well a bit earlier, Isaac and Oscar, didn't you?
Yeah, so Isaac and Oscar, so they're, you know, very accomplished sort of Thai boxers. They, you know, we're struggling to keep Isaac matched at the moment. He's had about, you know, 25 pull-outs for this one fight, so hopefully we've got him matched now. Oscar, you know, we've got him matched for Almighty. You know, he's really coming through, he's really developing. It's really nice to see him picking up the Jiu-Jitsu, you know, just listens all the time. We've also got Tom Mullen as well. You know, Tom's got some momentum behind him now because of, again, Cage Warriors sort of showing an interest. You know, Tom's one of the Mullen brothers, obviously, so, you know, I've trained Kev, Cal and Tom. So, yeah, another scary Mullen on the way out to go bash folk. We've got Jamal as well. You know, Jamal's, you know, he's one of those guys that, you know, once he gets going and once he lets go, it's scary. You know, the kid's got so much capability and so much talent. It's wonderful. And then we've got some other people coming through as well, like Ben Harrison. You know, Ben, you know, had his first ever fight on Cage Warriors, did brilliant. You know, it was a bit unlucky and got caught, but you know, again, that kid's so young and so talented. It's unreal. It's wonderful to see. You know, there's a lot of people who can keep, you know, naming, like Abu as well. You know, Abu's come from another gym where, you know, James Doyle teaches over at AVMA. So, you know, Jackie Harper comes over to us and gets some training with us. And
that's Air Valley Mixed Martial Arts.
Yeah, over in Keighley. So, you know, we've got a nice little relationship with those guys where, you know, we're cross-training quite a bit. You know, getting Jackie Harper over here has been really good, you know, for Jo and Marie to get some extra kind of training with ladies. Jackie's a purple belt. You know, Marie's obviously trying to prepare for her first fight. Her opponent's just dropped out, unfortunately, so we're just, you know, trying to keep the iron hot at the moment. So, you know, if something does come up, she's ready to go. just so many new young people coming through. It's great. It's really good. It goes back to that thing I said about cycles. You get cycles of people. It's great to have Jack Gunning back in the gym after kind of visit to Thailand and visit another gym. Again, Jack, I'm looking forward to getting some work in with him. Changing a few things, but again, that kid's scary. He's scary, talented. It's just, sometimes it's that mental game, or it's just piecing things together. And this is why we have kind of that longer career at amateur with our club, because you work out a lot for pro.
That is your philosophy, is it?
Personally?
Yeah.
And with IMAF now, it's a different game. It's a lot different from when I first started. I had one interclub fight, and then I couldn't find any other amateur competitions back in 2001, 2000. And so I ended up having my first pro fight in Italy. So I had one interclub, and then some random guy asked if I fancied picking a guy up from Oxford, if I wanted to meet him at Heathrow, if I fancied going over and flying over, having a fight with a scary Italian guy who was a blue belt under Marco Huas, who I never saw weigh in and was significantly bigger than me, with bigger gloves, smaller gloves, and I had bigger gloves than him. But now we've got kind of all these different events that do amateur fights. We've got events that are specifically to kind of work your way through into the UK team. We've got UK team trials. We've got the IMAFs. Now you can fight in Romania. You can fight in Bahrain. You can fight in China. You can fight in America. As an amateur, I don't see the point in rushing. I think a lot of people, are really into kind of UFC and the whole social media thing that goes on, but I think now's the best time to get involved in amateur mixed martial arts. Fantastic.
Well, that was so interesting to hear. We've kept you talking for nearly half an hour now, so you've done a marathon roll with the recording machine, that's for sure.
Hopefully the week.
just finish off then. You said, I think you've asked for one or two questions on social media from people who follow you about the gym, about MMA, about associated matters. So we'll just have a look at three of the top questions, the three best questions that you think have come in. You're having a look through your phone as we speak.
So this is on the Team Fulinkazan Instagram. I'll do two from Instagram, and then I'll do one from Facebook, because we've got on there as well. So the first one from Dan, who trains with us on and off and's over in Leeds. How did you get started in martial arts? So I'll try and keep this brief. I used to play rugby. Played rugby for Batley Bulldogs, for Dudley Hill, for Bradford schools and all that kind of thing.
Tough guy, everyone. He's a tough guy.
No, not all. And in between kind of playing for Batley, I played a game which I should have never really played. And ended up breaking my jaw in 4 places, and that kind of stopped the whole rugby career. From there, I just started playing for a bit of fun. Ended up having a massive argument with my coach at the time, because people really weren't committed in the training. I really wanted to win, so I thought, try something different. Got into karate. Did karate for a year, and then back in 2000. That's when I found the first BJJ club over in Huddersfield, the Nova Vida guys. At the time they were called Anaconda, so a guy called Andy Williams was my first coach. And then that were it from there. So started doing a bit of Thai boxing, started training with some very scary guys in really dingy places. There were a lot of training with bouncers back then. When it went at the BJJ club, luckily I found Darren Curry and the combat-based team. I opened, one of the first combat-based gyms outside of Pontefract. So when me, Darren Curry and Steve Muckles, who kind of started that, and we kind of went from there.
Okay, that's interesting and fits in with your stories from the start about that leading on then to the development of Fulinkazan, so that's good.
Next one, what would I need to start? What would I need to get to start training? So to be honest with you, nothing.
Who's that from? Sorry.
From Rick's him one. I'm sorry, I don't know you, so I think we've had a few conversations today. So basically nothing. Just no zips or studs on your clothing, anything that potentially could go over someone's face and cut. So just plain shorts, t-shirts, quite warm in the gym at the moment. Eventually, after you've tried a class, we have some spare equipment you can borrow. We have some equipment for sale which is quite reasonable, but just best thing to do is just come down, check out the class, and just see if you like it or not.
Fantastic.
We got one from this dodgy guy called Mergy.
Oh no.
Mergy would like to know if Chuck Norris is harder than him. I'll tell you what, we'll do a vote tonight to find out what people think of that.
Okay, well, we'll update you on that vote, the big vote then. Who is tougher, Chuck Norris or Mergy? Next podcast, you will find out.
Slightly different question from what made me get into martial arts, but there's a sort of a question after that as well. What made me stay with it? Which is an interesting question. I think we might have to do that in the next podcast because I don't know. I really need to think about that.
Okay, let's pick one more then.
Would you recommend training at other clubs every now and then? That's from Niall Edwards. Yeah, definitely. As I said earlier, the only time it does become a little bit of a conflict of interest for me as a coach is if you're training with someone who you've got a teammate competing against. So, like I said, we've got people going over to AVMA, got people going over to Combat Base in Ponty. There's some lads go over to AVT as well to get some MMA rounds in. Callum, Tom, Jab went over to Aspire to prepare for some of their fights. I honestly don't have a problem with people training at other clubs. Again, the only conflict of interest is when we're competing against that club in a mixed martial arts event. For Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, it's slightly different. I think the scene's still quite small and everyone kind of trains with everyone anyway, and you're not getting hit in the head, which I think is Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu competition is a lot nicer than mixed martial arts. There's still the same opportunity to really hurt your opponent, but you're not getting concussive punches, you're not getting hit in the head, and typically there isn't the money involved that there is with mixed martial arts. We're building people up, so that they can have a career in mixed martial arts, and why sabotage that by not looking after your students. One of the things that I am very loyal to my students. It has bitten me a few times, but I've got my students back. But yeah, I definitely do, and I think it's not only just training with other clubs; it's training different systems as well. So there's Neil Hall over at Brain and Brawn who teaches Sambo, jacket wrestling and nogi stuff. That's the Russian system. So they've got some very different kind of grips from judo. We've got some guys who go up to the Bradford Judo Club up at Planet Fitness. I think it is a good idea to go and train at other clubs. I'd like to do it a lot more often. Just with a full-time gym, it is a little difficult, but I'm going to try and head over to Ryan Hunter's, get some training in with him, because his judo is just brilliant and amazing. My judo is not great. We've got Bradford Wrestling Club in here as well, bringing their guys down to wrestle with. I think it is good to do that.
Okay, well, it's a fantastic start to this Fulinkazan podcast. We've had the history of the gym, the current happenings, and looking ahead to some future dates on the calendar, and some listener interaction already as well. And it's the first episode, so it can't be bad. We'll just close by asking you, what would you say then to anybody who's in the area thinking about coming down, have had a look at bradfordmma.com, just a final message to them?
Just come down and check it out. Come down and give it a go. Just don't come down with any zips or studs, so you can jump on the mat and start doing your training. But don't have that preconceived kind of that thought of mixed martial arts, fighting in a cage, they're all thugs. We've got people from so many different backgrounds. you know, the different cultures of Bradford. Sometimes it feels like everyone comes and meets here on a Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, and you know, it's brilliant. You know, at one point we had a kid who travelled over from America to come train with us. You know, who previously trained with us. He just wanted to come back and have a holiday over here. You know, we've had guys, you know, from Japan come over. You know, we've got, you know, God knows how many different, you know, people, Bradford, coming into this place from different cultures, different religions, all training together, all getting along. You know, it's not, you know, it is like a family. You know, sometimes families have a little bit of a fallout, but, you know, the atmosphere in here is nice. You know, no one's going to get killed, no one's going to get hurt, people looking out for you. You know, that's the environment that I want.
Thanks for listening to the Team Fulinkazan podcast. Check out the website bradfordmma.com and follow Team Fulinkazan on Twitter, Facebook and Instagram. Please like and share this episode.